somewhere in Des Moines or San Antonio with a young gay person who all of a sudden realizes that she or he is gay, knows that if the parents find out, they'll be tossed out of the house. The classmates will taunt the child, and the Anita Bryans and John Briggs are doing their bit on TV, and that child has several options.
Are you the same person you were 5 years ago? Or 5 years before that? Or even 5 years before that? Do you think you'll be the same person in the next 5 years? That's a lot of to think about. I mean, just to make it all about myself, 6 years ago I started this channel, something I never thought I would do. A year before that, I moved to LA when I thought I would always be an Ohioan. A few years before that, I went to film school. What? It's weird to realize how my story has changed over 10 years. And today, I want to talk about a story that made the biggest change for me. And it happened on a random night on a furry porn site. So, content warning for weirdness. Just all of the weirdness. This is a story about how this furry book, Waterways, made me. Let's start at the beginning. When I was a young boy, I always masturbated. What? Am I not supposed to say that? Hello? Who the hell is Dan? Well, that went awkward pretty quickly. I know it's not proper when discussing one's journey. Too TMI, too icky. Many would rather have me say, all my life, I've had these special feelings that made me different from the other boys. But the truth is, I've been masturbating since elementary and have always thought about doing it with guys. Too much? Sorry, Mom and Dad, your boy is a pervert, but trust me, this is going somewhere. I have my reasons. See, it's easy for me to look back now and realize the signs were there from the beginning. But growing up, I didn't know what I was doing. I just discovered this good feeling at a younger than normal age, and it became my fun little secret. A secret that would begin to develop a longing. Surely, I'm not the only one to discover this, whatever you call this. Someone to talk to, someone to show I'm not alone, and maybe someone to share. That never happened. As much as I would fantasize, I never felt I could express my feelings with someone. Plus, a sneaking suspicion they would never play out like it did in my head. So it stayed a fun secret. But over time, that secret turned from fun to shame. It was never because of what someone said, but more what wasn't. An absence. Like when you're in a group, but feel like you don't belong, and you can't explain why. A feeling that you are wrong. I didn't know. How could I? It's not like I had any guidance, anyone to talk to, any way to talk about it. I just knew I was out of order. I didn't fit in the puzzle. That I was wicked. Turning what was fun to shame, to fear, to hate. Many nights of hate. Nights ending with me crying, wishing I could just stop this evil inside me. Christ, can't you go one day without sinning, you piece of shit? I had to make a choice. I could pretend like nothing is wrong. Go down the path the world has already made for me. Be the man I'm expected to be. And if I don't, then puberty hits, so take all that times 11, so f*** my drag. But I made my choice. And then furries. A furry is someone with an interest in anthropomorphic animals, i.e., I like the fox that walks like a human. They will express that interest in many forms, from personas, art, fursuit, music, dance, writing, video games, etc., etc. Also sex. Like, a lot of sex. Was I not supposed to say that? In a nutshell, furries are weird, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a vivid hobby with a long history that has created a subculture that, while easy to make fun of as an outsider, is an amazing creative community for people of many backgrounds.
Aren't you all children? I'm 30!
I'm not here to justify or validate, cause there is no debate. Furry is a wide spectrum of expressions for all ages, ranging from the general to the adult, based on how that individual wants to do it. Basically, deal with it? It's not that hard to understand.
Congratulations! You just saved the fandom!
I did? I don't care. If you want to know more about our history, I'll leave a Furry 101 playlist linked below. Great videos from Vice, BuzzFeed, to YouTubers like Anthony Padilla, Culturally Effed, and Ash Coyote. Honestly, y'all are spoiled when it comes to this stuff, cause I had none of this. Do you know how I learned about the fandom? From that Animal Planet countdown show, Weird, True, and Freaky. The episode was a countdown of humanimals, about how far people's love for animals would go, the extremes they would take, and furries ranked 4 out of 7. Couldn't even crack the top 3. Frankly, I'm disappointed. That was around 2008, and seeing that segment was like a revelation. I had an interest with the usual suspects growing up. Disney, Cartoon Network, video games. I was obsessed with the Redwall books as a kid. But like before, I didn't have a way to express this genre, concept, aesthetic. So to hear what a furry is was like a groundbreaking discovery, which I forgot about for the better part of a year because I was too busy living that awkward high school life. It wasn't until I started college that I really started exploring what furries are. First through the webcomic scene that would lead me to discover whole websites dedicated to the fandom, filled with art and stories for me to consume for days. And most of it was porn. I mean, the site's name was Yifstar, so you shouldn't be surprised. Yif means sex. I mean, can you blame me? I was in deep denial about myself, with no way to explore. I feared going to porn sites because that made it feel too real for me. Also, I didn't want the risk of infecting the family computer with a virus. I had no outlet. But then I discovered Yifstar, where all of my interests were in one place. Where else was I going to find 2 guy tigers doing it? That's hot! Also, they're brothers. Wait, what the f***? That's one of the fun things about being a furry. I can either channel my inner Rutger Howard. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Or go full Pinhead, cuz
We have such sights to show you.
cheese grater. So yeah, when I wasn't taking classes, doing workshops, or working on projects, I would spend the rest of my time consuming too much furry porn. Which didn't help the battle going on up here. Coming up with any excuse to make me say I wasn't. At one point, I even told myself, yeah, I like women, but I find guy stuff arousing as a fantasy. But women are hot. No, you know. I tried so hard. I tried looking at women, but that never worked. No offense. I tried forgetting it by working, but that didn't work. I tried rationalizing it with inane lies, and like clockwork, it never worked. The same song and dance, the same hate and shame, endless, repeating, unbreakable. Then, something changed. It was no different than any other night. I was consuming my online furry stories, which, in hindsight, most were not good. But there was one guy that stood out from the rest. Kyle Gold. The reason Gold's story stood out in a sea of cookie-cutter man-on-man fun times was that his stories had more meat to them. Wait, in that the characters felt more like characters, the stories actually had conflict in them, and the sex, which was some of the best written by a landslide, worked to enhance the story overall. His stuff stood out, which is why I was going through his backlog once again and came across the story Streams. What I thought was just another story, but reading Streams showed something I didn't expect to face that night. An otter waking up in bed with a fox, the love he has for him, and the fear he has if anyone discovers that they are. This is the story of Corey, a high schooler trying to survive the daily grunge of being a teenager, made only worse when his English teacher publishes one of his poems in the local paper. Also, his girlfriend dumps him just to add salt to the wound. Then one day at the pool, he bumps into a black fox named Samaki. The two discover they have a lot in common and spend the rest of the day together. But something is nagging at Corey. He can't stop admiring the fox. He must be an athlete, Corey thought to himself. Good chest, good shoulders, good arms. Good heavens, am I really thinking this? But it was natural, he told himself. And feeling that Samaki was waiting for something else from him that he hadn't given, a growing desire. A small patch of white fur poked out above the dark blue Speedos the boy wore, matched by two triangles below, one pointing down inside of each thigh. Corey blinked, abruptly aware that he was staring at another boy's groin. Uh-oh, that's the last thing he needs. But he can't hide these feelings as much as he tries to push them away. He kept seeing Samaki's jet black muzzle and bright white smile in his mind. Corey was really looking forward to seeing the fox in person again. And the journey will take him, well... Have you ever discovered a character you just click with? 'Cause that's what reading Waterways was like. This wasn't like the other stories I've read. It felt more revealing. I never had a story say the things I was thinking. His body knew what he wanted more than he would admit to himself. Whenever Samaki was around, it told him so, loud and clear. The fear? It wasn't fair. He wasn't equal to this kind of temptation. The anger? I don't want to deal with it, he snapped. I want to fight it. The existential dread. All night, he stared at the ceiling, wondering if he would be fighting his body and its urges his whole life. If not, if he gave in, would that be so bad? Whispered a voice into his head. To realize you weren't just reading a story, but looking at a mirror. A mirror I have tried so hard to destroy. I like girls, he said firmly back. He thought about the great times he had with Jenny. They weren't that great. Were they really? They were, he told himself firmly. And besides, I was never attracted to other guys. I never wanted to sleep with Sal. What about that time at camp when you got him to go skinny dipping? That wasn't, or the time you slept over at his place and managed to work it so you were in the same bed. I was 9! Or the time, stop! I've tried so hard to pretend nothing was wrong. To act like everything was fine. To think I was no different from anyone else. Lying to myself again and again and again. Because my greatest fear is that I'm a burden for everyone. Where I overthink what to talk about and punish myself over the most trivial or weird acts I do. That I didn't want to be a disappointment. Especially to my family. That they knew what I am. Who I am. Do they think that I'm...
No, I can't say I really did.
I never did.
No.
Never any...
You didn't... I don't know what... I would be looking for a person who would be gay or not be gay, and I just didn't think it.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I did nothing else but read streams late into the night. I didn't get much sleep. I couldn't get over how a fictional otter's love for a fox of the same sex had affected me so much. For the first time in years, I didn't try to turn away or rationalize. I finally got to look at myself. Reading Corey's story made me see the path was not meant for me, that I would only make others unhappy if I continued going down it, that I wasn't happy with myself. I prayed that night, but I didn't ask for forgiveness. I just asked if God would accept me, if I can accept myself. I'm not sure if my prayers were answered, but boy, did I see a lot of positive stories the following days. By the end of that night, I had the confidence to finally say what terrified me before. I'm David Popovich, and I am gay. Woo! Okay, let's drop the theatrics. You don't know how hard it is to ride around saying gay, 'cause haven't you heard? I'm gay. Gay, 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 gay. Give me a G, give me an A, give me a Y. What's that spell? Fabulous. I'm gay. Gay, 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 gay. I'm gay. Homosexual. You know this video won't be monetized. So yeah, I'm gay. And it was because of furries. Furries may be gay. Well, the actual title would be Furries Helped Me Come to Terms with My Sexual Identity After Years of Self-Hate, thanks to a furry book between an otter and a fox. But would you have really clicked that? Honestly, it's so weird this is the story that spoke to me. Sure, I would have been interested in it cause furry, and the fact the book is a
Special Yellowy Book! Jesus Christ!
Okay, that's a bit unfair. The book does fall under the category of erotica, and as such features intimate scenes of Corey and Samaki. There was an initial reason I went for this story, but you're selling the book short if you can't get past that an otter and a fox get it on. I just realized the ridiculousness I just said. But that Kyle uses these scenes to highlight Corey's journey of understanding his sexuality. It may not be for everyone, but that doesn't disqualify what the book is doing. This book is more than a coming out story with sex. It's about a young man on the cusp of adulthood, worrying about things like college applications with the hope he and Samaki can go to the same school, which reading now brings back dreadful flashbacks of paperwork and essays revealing your most personal life stories. The horror. To Corey's religious journey as he learns he can be both gay and a Christian. It's not a big plot line, but it's a nice addition to Corey's journey. But that's the stuff you expect from these stories. But the book's biggest theme isn't about Corey coming out, but whether he can come to terms with himself. The biggest conflict in the book is between Samaki's openness with being gay, while Corey continues to hide in fear, and how that begins to put a strain on their relationship. Samaki wasn't exactly shy about the relationship, and he resents any attempt Corey would make to hide it. It's just, why does everyone have to know? It's my business. Where Corey begins to wonder if they are meant to be together. Why did he have to be trapped in this life where he couldn't be honest with his family and friends about the people he loved? Why did Samaki have to come along and drag him into this? He met Samaki's eyes again and instantly felt bad. If he hadn't met Samaki, then he wouldn't know Samaki. He wouldn't want that. It was everyone else causing the problems. Which comes to a head when Samaki wants to take Corey to his senior prom, where you think you know how the storyline goes, but instead plays on our expectations as Samaki lets his grievances known when Corey backs out. There's always a later, he said. If we don't go to the dance now, when will it be important enough to go? Our senior year of college? Our 10th anniversary? Showing that as much as Corey knows he's in love, he still lets the opinions of others define him. Fear that his overbearing religious mother won't accept him, who, when she learns, tries to save him. I just want you to know I'm willing to help you with this problem, Corey. I love you. The words sounded forced out. Corey stared at her. Yeah, Mom, you and God, right? I know it might be hard for you to believe when you talk about sending me to camp to fix me. It is. Leading to his mother yelling and kicking him out of the house. Waterways isn't just a book that helped me see my thoughts and desires. It brought out my worst fears. That fear of rejection. The fear my family would push me away if I showed my true self. That I couldn't be myself.
Well, I was pretty closed-minded. Truthfully, I used to crack jokes just like every other crude person out there.
Yeah, I agree. I was very closed off. I think because I didn't really know anyone who was gay, so I didn't have a basis that really involved knowing someone. So everything else just seemed like I just thought it was a choice. That why would you choose to live like this if you could not live like this? Wouldn't you choose differently? I didn't realize that you were born like this.
When I hear stuff like that, it makes me wonder what if. What if I was able to come out sooner? What if I knew my parents would accept me? What if I could be a kid who didn't grow up hating myself? We all have our regrets.
If there was only one thing that I would have done differently is I would have been able to support you in your younger years. And I probably it would have been a struggle even back then for me. But, you know, I would have liked to not have you struggle so much with it.
Mm-hmm.
That you knew you had a safe haven here and, you know, we're your parents.
I don't know how long as a child you felt different and felt very special, and I wished that we could have been supportive. I didn't see it. I didn't know it. Like Dad said, I didn't know what to look for. And I feel like I failed you in any way by making you feel isolated or not able to be open. I'm so sorry. That's what I'm sorriest about.
What if? But there's a point you can't let those what ifs define you. We are people. We can learn, gain new perspectives, and while we can't fix the past, we can learn and make a better future. Just as I was going through my journey going to my local center, my mom and dad began to learn more about the LGBT+ community working at our local Cleveland Film Festival, even meeting transgender women and learning their stories. Though
I don't know if I would have changed. I probably would have changed with the Cleveland Film Festival to a degree, but not to the degree I have. You actually coming out and the time that was given me, I mean, you never told me.
my coming out was a bit unorthodox. The first person I came out to was my sister during her visit to me at college. It was a nerve-wracking experience. She pushed against the idea at first, bringing up how I used to like a girl back in high school, but that wasn't out of love, but an awkward teen thinking of her as a suitable mate. I was a weird person growing up. I thought my worst fears were true, that my family would reject me. But later that night, we had a heart-to-heart about it. Upon learning she was the first person I officially came out to, she told me something I never thought I would hear from her, telling me how I was brave. I never saw myself as a brave person. We both cried like little babies and gave the biggest hug I could remember at the time. My sister had accepted me. Then my roommate walked in on us asking if we were okay. It was a little awkward after that. There was one condition I asked from her before she went home. I didn't want her to tell the parents. I wanted to be the one to tell them face to face when the time was right. This was my journey and my responsibility. But
I found out before because I was upstairs and I came across Tori's journal where you told her when she went to Florida, and I read that. And it took me a while after reading that to come to terms with it. And I'm like, well, David hasn't changed, just David's came out, but David hasn't changed.
Thanks, sis. They still respected my wishes to come out on my own terms, but it took me years to do it. I still feared that rejection, even with my sister's support. Anytime I felt it was right, my throat would lock up. It was super frustrating. So instead of speaking to them, I decided to write them. Around New Year's Eve, I wrote a note while everyone was asleep. A simple icebreaker to let them know that I still love them and to tell them who I am. It may not be traditional, but it would help me get over that hill. That had to be one of the dumbest ideas I've ever had. Leaving that note put my brain into utter panic mode, fighting between getting rid of it and go another year without telling them, or to leave it and face whatever fallout comes from it. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, couldn't get a single minute of sleep. My brain was on fire. Things were never going to be the same. Then morning came. I heard my parents come into the room and knew they found the note, and nothing happened. I came down shortly after, and we talked.
You haven't changed. We haven't changed. It's the situation that's changed? No. The life story that's changed. But it's still your life story and Mom's and I's life story. And, we still love you, period. Nothing in between.
With the time given, they knew I was still me.
I've never had to explain you, and I never will. You're my son, and that's all that needs to be known.
And with that, I was out. We're not perfect. I had to learn just as much about what being gay meant, but we both knew we loved each other and can still grow.
I still have room to grow, trust me. But I'm way better than I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last week.
And it all started because of this book. I know with the way I'm presenting it, I'm making the book seem near flawless, but that's not true. Like all media, it has flaws. And while reading both versions of the book, I have noticed some cracks that need to be addressed. The subplot with Corey's friend Saul feels unresolved. It's supposed to be this look at whether your friends care about you when you come out. At first, Saul seems fine and supportive, letting Corey stay at his place after being kicked out. But then, after a night at a college bar, which, how did high schoolers get in a college bar? A drunk Sal forces Corey to masturbate him when a girl ditches him. Corey refuses, leading to Sal kicking him out and outing Corey to the school. The reason this feels unresolved is because it intersects with another problem, the book's pacing. Specifically the third part. See, Waterways is actually a collection of 3 novellas: Aquifers, Streams, and Oceans. The pacing in Aquifers is damn near perfect. Streams handles its pacing very well, but Oceans is where it stumbles. Cause while Oceans' main conflict is about Corey and Samaki going to prom, getting into college, and graduation coming up, a good portion of Oceans is dedicated to Sal's subplot. Turns out it wasn't Sal who outed Corey, the culprit being a random character whom we never met before who saw Corey and Samaki on a random day and started telling people. She also informs Corey that Sal's classmates are making erotic images of him and Corey. leading to Cory trying to mend bridges, only for Sal to punch him in the gut and leave. And that's it. The whole subplot leaves you unresolved, cause did Cory misunderstand Saul? Or is Saul just an asshole? Hoping there would be some resolution at the end, but nope. This makes Oceans feel padded, with a storyline that could easily be cut and change nothing. Same can be said about Perry, a young wolf who's almost too interested in Cory, but once Cory is outed, pushes him away because he's afraid to be seen as gay by association. This one is not as bad, but Perry's another character you think Kyle will do more with, but not much comes out of it besides getting Cory to go to a college prep class. Also, a bunch of tiny things like the awkward use of pop culture references in the book, the formatting of the paperback where there are no chapter breaks, making it hard to find a decent place to stop. Also, this cover is bad, mainly in how Samaki is framed. I swear to God, I saw someone on Tumblr say they thought Samaki had drowned because of this image, and adding a few wiggly lines around them doesn't help either. It's strange to be so critical about Waterways like this, but reading it now hasn't had the same impact when I read it back then, to the point I find Cory's issues almost alien. But there is a scene that reminds me why I still love this book. Do you remember Bruno?
What's up? I'm Bruno.
It was another Sacha Baron Cohen does an over-the-top character meant to highlight people's bigotry. I remember being excited to see this movie because I was a big fan of Borat. I was also a dumb teenager. Watching Bruno on opening night with my dad was one of the most uncomfortable movie experiences in my life. Instead of seeing the joke, all I saw was my worst fears made flesh. It left me feeling disgusted with myself and pushed me further into the closet.
You're not burning hell for that one!
Then, a few months later, I came across Waterways, and the scene that still speaks to me is Cory and Samaki's first sex scene. Throughout the first third, Cory finds himself hating the fantasies he has of Samaki, how disgusting he can't control his desires for him. Then, after a roller coaster of character development, Cory admits his feelings to Samaki, and the two share their first passionate kiss. Their lips touched, and he didn't want to do anything else. The kiss seemed to go on and on and on. Wow, he said. So that's what that's supposed to be like. After that, Cory gets to see all of Samaki. A scene that is both awkward but also loving, as he discovers his fears were over-exaggerated, that he is still Cory, that the signs have been there his whole life. I didn't know what it meant to be gay growing up. I grew up in a part of the world where such things were discouraged, where seeing a film like Bruno made me hate myself more. But it was reading this furry book that showed me that I am not weird for discovering my sexuality early, that my feelings were not wrong or deviant, that I am valid. The reason I wanted to talk about this story again after so many years is because I want to make the video young me needed to see, especially because I feel stories like mine are becoming less welcomed, where we have to clean ourselves up to other people's standards of normal. Just this last Pride, I've seen a lot of discourse in the LGBT+ community, from what it means to be a good gay to how asexuals are not valid when they are, the gays hating the bis hating the pans, and do I even need to say what's happening to our dear trans? Which, while we're here, fuck TERFs. You forgot to bleep out the I know. And the same can be said with furries, wanting to present a clean image when sexuality is an aspect of furry culture. It's because of that side of the fandom I was able to come out. But many wish to whitewash that part away because they care more about our looks than our actions. They remind me of Cory's mother, so focused on appearances that she can't love her own son because he doesn't fit that good, wholesome, advertiser-approved image. But Corey doesn't need the approval of his mother or others to live his best life. He doesn't need to change for anyone. You don't need to change for anyone. You are valid. Your sexuality, as long as it doesn't mess with consent or children, is valid. Furries have nothing to be ashamed of. I have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And look, I know this is coming from a privileged place. I'm a cis white gay guy. By all accounts, I hit the coming out jackpot. Even my parents said this.
To anyone who is watching this video, give your parents a chance. Not everyone's going to open you open hand arms and, just love you for you. But I think all parents still love their kids no matter what.
It comes from a good place, but I know not all coming out stories are the same, and not all families find that love. But I hope no matter where you are in your journey, you know there's nothing wrong with you. If you can, I recommend the 10th anniversary hardcover edition, which is more expensive, but features 2 additional short stories and better formatting with actual chapter breaks and grammar. Though I don't know who was copy editing the first third because it's riddled with typos. Thankfully, it's only in the first third. I've changed so much in the last 10 years. Before, I was a scared, confused college student who hated everything about himself. Then, I came across this special yaoi furry book and discovered I can love myself. Now I'm in a polyamorous relationship with men twice my age. God, my life is weird. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I never felt I failed, and I don't think Mom ever felt she failed. It's just, it's your life story. You have to write it. You have to live it. And you have to be happy with you. So, I support you and your happiness.
Thank you for listening to my mad ravings into this void we call the internet. Thank you to my partners for loving me. Thank you, Mom, Dad, and Sis for accepting me. And thank you, Kyle, for writing this story. And to anyone who has ever felt different, like they don't belong and they are unable to keep their heads above water, remember, you're an otter. You can swim.
But there's hope for a better world. There's hope for a better tomorrow. Without hope, the essence, without hope, the essence give up. I know that you cannot live on hope alone, but without it, life is not worth living. And you gotta give them hope. Thank you very much.